Привет, друзья! Как дела? My name is Fedor. Welcome back to Be Fluent in Russian podcast. Today, we'll be talking about Tolstoy. We're continuing our quest of Russian people, talking about certain Russian figures in the Russian history, in the Russian culture that have contributed a lot to something, sciences, poetry, literature in general, just distinguished people. Today we have Tolstoy. Tolstoy, you might know him as an author of War and Peace, of other things as well, of other writings. He is one of the major, writers of the Russian history. And we also think of him as one of our greats as well. And today we will simply read a story about him, and you can read about his biography, about what he did yourself if you're interested. But he is one of our major, most influential writers of the Russian culture. So, of course, the main one being War and Peace is his main piece, yeah. But now let's get into the story. I'll first read it quickly, and then translate it sentence by sentence. So, here we go. В 1880-х, в 1990-х годах Толстой пережил глубокий духовный кризис, который привел его к радикальному переосмыслению своей жизни. Он начал стремиться к жизни в соответствии с христианскими идеалами, как он их понимал. В 1891 году он официально заявил о предоставлении права издания своих сочинений и переводов с них, вышедших с 1881 года, всем желающим, тем самым фактически отказываясь от авторских прав. Толстой также стал носить простую крестьянскую одежду, работал в поле, придерживался вегетарианской диеты и стремился к простоте в быту. Он отдавал свое состояние семье и не препятствовал крестьянам использовать имущество Ясной Поляны. Now let's break it down sentence by sentence, word by word, pretty much. And this text is not an easy one. It's sort of like scientific in a way, because it's a historical writing, it's a historical text. I guess like a historical passage of it. So the words won't be simplified to a learner. So we will talk about most difficult words here as well. So eventually you will have to get to this level of your Russian when you're making progress and getting better. So I think it's interesting to sometimes also take a passage like this and learn something from it. So the first part of the first sentence. В 1880-х, 1890-х годах, in 880 to 890s, the years, Толстой пережил глубокий духовный кризис. Tolstoy experienced a profound spiritual crisis. So, Tolstoy пережил. Tolstoy, of course, is the name of the guy. Пережил. Пережил can mean either he survived, he lived through something, or also it can mean to experience something. But it's an experience that is not just, I've experienced a wonderful trip to Spain. It's more so something deeper, something that that changes you pretty much. Глубокий means deep, глубокий, духовный, spiritual, and of course, кризис is crisis, который привел его, which led him, к радикальному переосмыслению своей жизни, to the radical reevaluation of his life. So, радикальному, of course, means radical. Переосмысление. Осмысление is meaning or definition, when you give something meaning. We have the stem смысл. Смысл means sense, meaning, root. Осмысл or осмысление means to give meaning to something, to grant it meaning. Things are meaningless in the world, but you give them meaning yourself. And then if we have the prefix переосмысление, that means that you have already added a certain meaning to the words, and now you're redoing it. So, re-evaluation, reassignment of meaning своей жизни, his own life. Next sentence. Он начал стремиться к жизни в соответствии с христианскими идеалами. He began striving to a life in accordance with Christian ideals or Christian morals. So, он начал. He began. He started. Стремиться means to strive, to aspire, to go towards something. Стремиться is when you have a certain goal, when you have a certain accomplishment that you want to have, and you go toward it. You do everything to reach it. That's стремиться. And here we have стремиться к жизни, to strive for a life. Then there's great part of this, I think more like a C2 level phrase, в соответствии с, in accordance with, or in alignment with, в соответствии с. And by the way, this text is also available below. So as I'm reading this, you can have the actual words below too. And then в соответствии с, in accordance with, христианскими идеалами, Christian ideals, Christian morals. Как он их понимал, as he understood them. So it wasn't just a certain Christian, I guess, belief or things that were given to him or somebody told him, do this. No, it says, как он их понимал, as he understood them. Of course, this caliber of a writer is a person who can reflect onto the world, but also upon himself. And imagine if he got into religion, he probably also couldn't just follow certain principles of somebody else's reading of the Bible, right? So he had to probably have gone through a lot of reflection of the Bible himself. And that's why this part of it, как он их понимал, as he understood them, is very crucial. В 1891 году, in 1891, он официально заявил, he officially proclaimed or declared, официально means officially, заявил, claimed or proclaimed or declared, о предоставлении права издания, about giving of the rights. Предоставлять means to give, to grant. О предоставлении права, about the giving of the rights. Издание своих сочинений, of the publishing of his work. Издание is this professional term for publishing of books, publishing of movies, издание. Своих сочинений, his writings. Сочинение here doesn't really mean books, doesn't mean novels. It means everything that he put together, everything that he wrote. И переводов с них, and the translations of them. And then we have this part, вышедших, that have come out, с 1881 года, from 1881, всем желающим, to all of the people who want it. So всем, to everyone, желающим, everybody interested. Okay? Anybody interested, anybody wanting. And then another part of this is not over yet. Тем самым, by doing so, фактически отказываясь от авторских прав. Practically renouncing his author rights. So this part, тем самым фактически отказываясь, is a very difficult structure. By doing so, practically denouncing his rights. Not something that's easy for if you're just a beginner. This part, of course, is going to be very complicated, but this gives you an idea of what Russian is awaiting you down the line. Толстой также стал носить простую крестьянскую одежду. Tolstoy also began to wear simple peasant clothes. So Tolstoy также also, so также is used when we have multiple things that we're listing, and also this, and also this. Стал носить, began to wear. So we had начал, let me go back to the first part. Он начал стремиться, began to strive for, and now we have стал носить, began to wear. So we have two verbs, начал and стал, both translated as began. Стал is more of your habit, of the habitual thing that you do. Not necessarily like to start a writing. It's more so when you change your ways, change your life. Okay? Things that you do on a regular basis. Стал носить, began to wear, простую, simple, крестьянскую, peasant, одежду, clothes. So if you remember, he lived in the 19th century, where you still had serfs. People, you had your peasants and those who did manual labor. They worked for the estate, and they had a state owner that they reported to, and things like that. So he was one of those noble people. His family is of a noble descent. They had land, they had estates, but now he changed his ways and started wearing peasant clothes, and also работал в поле, worked in the fields, придерживался вегетарианской диеты, followed a vegetarian diet. So in English we have this word follow, to follow a diet. It's, I guess, like a simplified version of this thing of following a certain diet. I think that to follow is a very simple term. I think that it just has so many different meanings that it also fits with the diet. But in Russian, придерживаться. Придерживаться means adhering to. Something a bit more complicated and I think more specific to this diet kind of a word. So, придерживался вегетарианской диеты, adhere to the vegetarian diet, и стремился к простоте в быту, and sought simplicity in everyday life. Again, стремился and strived к простоте, to the simplicity, в быту, in everyday life. Быт is a very short word that means everyday life, things that you do around the house. Он отдавал свое состояние семье. He gave his wealth, or his... Yeah, wealth is not just meaning, but... Oh, sorry, it's not just money, it's also anything of value. Land, property, all of that. Он отдавал, he gave away свое состояние семье, his wealth to the family, и не препятствовал крестьянам, and didn't prevent peasants использовать имущество Ясной Поляны, from using the property of Ясная Поляна. Ясная Поляна is the name of their estate. So he also worked in the fields with other peasants that he probably owned or his family owned, and they could use the estate as well. So I think this is a very profound kind of a thing of Tolstoy to have done that back in that time. Because imagine if your family heritage for a long time had estate, had workers on there, and you pretty much give it up. I guess he stopped valuing the material and started valuing spiritual more. So that's Tolstoy. Toward the end of his, I guess, tenure, his life, not end of his life, but more his maturity, he changed his mind about what it means to be materialistic. And I think that this is a very good lesson. And yeah, that's all. And now let's learn some vocabulary. This vocabulary list is brought to you by Be fluent, of course. We have a ton of vocabulary. We have like 100,000 words that you can learn with Be Fluent, and they're all separated into levels too. So you can learn A1, more beginner stuff, A2, a bit more advanced, all the way to C2, and cover 99% of all Russian conversations with those 6 sets. A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2 cover 99% of all Russian conversation. So you can learn that with Be Fluent. We have tools for you to do that. And of course, we have a regular course, Russian step by step, that will teach you all the basics that you need in order. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay? But let's get to the vocabulary of today. And by the way, Be Fluent is available with the first link in the bio. But let's get into the vocabulary for today. Радость. Радость is joy. Радость is something that you experience when something good happens. Радость. And this list is going to be feelings oriented, by the way. And then we have a derivative of радость. We have рад or рада for feminine. So if you're a guy, you say я рад. I'm glad, I'm happy, I rejoice. If you're a lady, you say я рада for the same thing. Скучать means to miss. Скучать can either mean to miss someone or to be bored. One verb has completely different meanings, right? Next, возвращаться. Возвращаться means to return, to come back. Now, this can be to return to a place that you were born at, or just like to return to a book, or return to the beginning of the sentence. So it doesn't only mean physical return. It can be to come back to a certain passage of the book, something more minor, I guess. Уважать means to respect. Уважать. Запоминать means to memorize, to remember something and to put it in your memory. Not to remember like to recite, to recall something, but to store it in your memory. Расстраиваться means to be upset, to get upset. And yeah, расстраиваться. Then we have воспитывать. Воспитывать is a crucial verb for raising a kid. Воспитывать is to raise a kid, but also not just to watch them, feed them, change their diapers, but it's to raise, to instill certain qualities in them. That's воспитывать. Then we have заботиться. Заботиться means to take care of something. Take care of a person, of a thing too. And позаботиться is a perfected variation of it. Позаботиться. And finally, вспоминать. Now we had запоминать, to remember, to store it in your memory. Imagine the opposite. Вспоминать is the opposite. You recall the memory that's already in your brain. So it's the opposite of that. So the list, радость, which is joy, happiness, рад or рада for I'm happy, I'm glad, скучать to miss, возвращаться to come back, уважать to respect, запоминать to remember, расстраиваться to get upset, воспитывать to raise, заботиться to take care, and вспоминать to recall something. That is all. And of course, more vocabulary is on Be Fluent, first link in the bio, learn with us. And if you're an Android user, we also have recently published an app. We're working on other Apple devices right now. So, yeah. I'll see you all in the next episode, and thank you so much. Пока-пока.